when I'm running. I always take what I want and I always give it 100. Don't need a bank, no I'm funded. Play the game like it's nothing. I'm always thankful for something. Don't take for granted, stay humble. Now wake up! It's time to look at the enemy. Look in the mirror if he is no friend to me. It's not working out.
Hello, Miami. Thank you so much for watching 305 Sports Now. Once again, we are now live with 305 Live, which tonight, night two, getting ready for the Miami Dolphins draft day on Thursday. We will be discussing today the actual 13th pick, and of course, me being a Canes fan, we're throwing a little wrinkle of Canes that will potentially be drafted this upcoming Thursday or throughout the weekend as well. So, making their first appearance here on 305 Sports Now, and it is my honor to have, for the first time ever, an actual married couple, all right, to come on the show, okay? You guys know them. You guys know them as Lou from Dade, okay, and Ashley, the 305 Sports babe of the SoFlo Sports podcast. Ashley, Lou, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having us. We're excited to be here.
What's going on, Will? Thanks for having us, man. We are excited to be on board.
Yeah, and I'm so happy to have you guys on, man. I mean, again, we've exchanged on Twitter several times, but we've never really actually collaborated. So I'm very happy to have you guys on. I enjoy your takes, how active you guys are on social media, plus also actually just active on social media in general, whether it's YouTube or Instagram or even X as well. But before I start the show, and we talked about this before the show started, okay, Lou, we know you're from Dade, okay? But Ashley, you're a Jersey girl, okay? You're actually a New Jersey girl, but you are like all things Miami. So where did this start for you?
Yeah, no, I'm a super Jersey girl, meaning like every 3 weeks, I'm like, Lou, I gotta go back up there. Like I'm still like pizza bagels, and it's still all my heart. So different routes, right? I became a Heat fan solely because the Nets left Jersey. Growing up, I was a big Jason Kidd, Kerry Kittles, Keith Van Horn, like Richard Jefferson. That was like my squad. So when they left to go to Brooklyn, I was like, all right, peace out. That's how I became a Miami Heat fan. Now for the Dolphins. Lou thinks my story is so lame. In fact, just a few minutes ago, he was like, no one cares about your story anymore. It's so lame. And I was like, you want to bet? So I'm so happy that you're actually asking me about it because I think you're going to enjoy it. All right. Growing up, I was a big basketball and baseball girl. And not that I didn't care about football, but it was all Jets, right? You know, my families are all Jets fans and even Eagles, but big Jets. And I just wasn't really feeling the Jets thing. I moved down to Miami in 2008 originally, and I wasn't really liking it. I got really homesick. It just wasn't my vibe. And I mean, I still like sports and stuff. And I became attached to the Dolphins solely because of one player, Anthony Fasano, right? I'm like, this guy's from Jersey. He's Italian. He's playing on the Dolphins. If he can live down here, I can do this, right? So like, I was like, all right, this guy's doing it. Let me live it out here. And then I just became so attached to the Dolphins because I was kind of like a free agent, right? I didn't have a football team back in the day. So it was because of Anthony Fasano. 2 years ago, I actually met him and I got starstruck. And I told him, I was like, you were the reason I became a Dolphins fan. Nicest guy. He said, no one's ever told me that before. I was like, no kidding. But yeah, it is because of Anthony Fasano that made me just like say, hey, like he's like a part of home. He's here doing it. Ash, you got this. You could do it too. And I became a fan because of him. Crazy, right?
That's an incredible story. That's incredible. So you are of Italian descent, right?
Italian and Slovakian. Yep.
Slovakian. Oh, okay. My students asked me once. I teach high school over at West End High, and my students asked me once, Mr. Padron, if you weren't Cuban, what would you rather be? And I would say, I'd rather be Italian.
We're great people. We love to eat. I mean, Lou will tell you.
I love to eat too.
Together for 5 years, and our food's excellent, and we're very family oriented. But yeah, I'm mostly Italian American descent, and we're good people.
Yeah, Cubans and Italians have a lot of similarities because they all say we speak loudly. That's one.
With our hands too sometimes.
Yes, the hand gestures too. Yeah. Carl from X, he does hockey and stuff like that. He told me the same exact thing. He's Italian. He's actually Italian. He lives over here in Broward. And he told me something. Yeah, man, we all talk with our hands. We're loud. And so I'm like, yeah, we definitely have a lot in common. So thank you for sharing your story. I cared about your story, Ashley.
Thank you. And you know Anthony Fasano, right?
Yeah, of course, Anthony Fasano.
Okay,
yes.
I
was a fan. Not my favorite Dolphin tight end of all time. Okay, that's Keith Jackson. In general, that guy was a stud. But he was up there. Anthony Fasano did his job. I will say that. Blocked, caught the football, and you want to get open. you can ask any more out of Anthony. So I was a fan of his when he played for the football team.
You mentioned Keith Jackson, man. That was one of my favorite tight ends too. And that whole offense. You got Marino, Keith Byers, Irving Fryer. Man, that was some fun times. That a lot of points during those days.
Yeah, it was, man. And that's the one thing that I admired about Shula, his ability to adapt. The guy went from having Bob Greasy and throwing it 10 times a game to basically creating the air raid offense with the Miami Dolphins in the 80s and 90s. So, I mean, that's one thing I loved about Coach Shu. I think he slipped a bit on defense. I think he was a little too stuck in his ways on defense when Johnson was bringing the speed over from college into the NFL with the Dallas Cowboys. I do think we had guys that were slow, just big. And I think that kind of hurt Shula a bit. But as far as like being able to adapt from Unitas to Greasy, then to Marino, I think that's something that I can never forget. But yeah, those offenses were like the youngins asked me, "Man, what's like watching Marino play?" I'm like, "Bro, you have no idea, no idea how it was watching that man suit up for the Phins and just make 4 touchdowns look easy in an era where you can hit the quarterback below the knees back in those days."
Right. Yep.
Yeah. So, anyways, let's do some draft talk before I get some complaints. Okay. Draft talk. All right. This Thursday night, the Dolphins are still expected to pick their 13th. There are rumors they may drop down, to lower in the first round to get some extra picks. We'll see what Chris Greer decides to do. But they're expected to pick at 13. My personal opinion, best player available is what the Dolphins should go with. If that's a tackle, go right ahead. If that's a guard, go right ahead. Or now, because of the whole Jalen Ramsey situation, they may be expected to pick a corner. All right, so I'm going to throw a couple names out there, both for you and Ashley, and you tell me what you think. Okay, these are the rumored guys that could go 13th if you go to the cornerback position for the Dolphins. Will Johnson out of Michigan, who had 9 picks and 3 touchdowns in his career. And, of course, Jedi Barron, who was a flat-out baller, 300 snaps in all 4 positions, listed as a cornerback. So what do you guys think about those 2 guys in particular, that if the Dolphins decide to reach and grab them?
Yeah, so I had obviously them down as my cornerback picks, more Will Johnson from Michigan. When we had Big O on the show, Big O actually had him as his first round draft pick going as well. Now, with those 2 guys, they're going to be starters. So it's kind of like, hey, we're not just going to draft to kind of build them up in the trenches. They're going to be thrown onto the field. So it's, who's available, but who's really going to put on the uniform and start week 1 is kind of how I'm viewing those 2 guys going in if we were to go those routes. Yeah.
My take is, look, Will Johnson, playmaker, obviously won a national championship with the Michigan Wolverines 2 years ago. Something you want, right? You want that, that championship pedigree, kind of like what we did with Christian Wilkins out of Clemson. He won the national title. So that's good, but he also has an injury history. Yeah. And we are not in a position to select any players that have an injury history because we just have not been healthy. And so I don't think we could take a chance. We have to make sure that we have a guy. Obviously, once you step in between the lines, anything could happen, but you do yourself a disservice, in my opinion, if you're the Miami Dolphins front office, by selecting a guy who, as Ashley mentioned, you're expecting to play from day one.
Yes.
A guy who possibly is not 100% or has had an injury history. So I want a guy who's fresh, and so that would rule out Will Johnson for me personally. Now, Barron out of Texas, as you mentioned, guy who's played all over the field and also has playmaking ability. That's a guy what I would prefer between those 2. That would be my take with those 2 guys that you mentioned.
Yeah, my biggest thing with Will Johnson, I like the aesthetics. Like, I like his height, I like his pedigree, I like the fact that he's played in competition, elite competition, and has been successful. And a lot of his numbers are a little misleading because they're not throwing at his side. If not, he probably would have more interceptions. My biggest concern is that his injury was turf toe, and that's an injury that doesn't really go away. That's something that lingers in a lot of athletes. We know O.J. McDuffie suffered from turf toe, in his career, and he was never the same. So even though it's years ago, that's still one of those injuries that doesn't really go away. So for me, I think if you're going to reach, and decide to go cornerback, I think Jedi Barron will be the best guy. You could line him up at nickel. You could line him up in the boundary, as well. The guy could play in the box. He could cover your best receiver, any team's best receiver. He's got great hands, get interceptions. Another guy playing in the SEC for Texas, elite competition as well. Or even like Will Johnson playing Big Ten. Those obviously the 2 best conferences in college football. So I do think that Jedi Barron would be, I think, the better pick. Because he's a guy that's coming into the league healthy versus a guy that's coming in with turf toe. So that's something that does concern me. I like Will Johnson as far as his aesthetics go, the height, speed, power, the experience. I get it, but I would rather go with the other guy that's played about 300 snaps, and you can line him up anywhere, and he could be successful. I mean, and that's where I think, like, you don't want a guy with turf toe lined up against Jamar Chase. That is a recipe for disaster. Okay, recipe for disaster. Or Stephon Diggs or DJ Metcalf or those guys. And in the NFL, that is a recipe for disaster. So I think the Dolphins should get Jedi Bear. The guy's gonna ball. Okay, the guy's fearless. The guy's gonna ball. So that's my take on those two guys. I like them both. I wouldn't be upset if the Phins got Will Johnson, but I would rather get a guy without an injury history. But we all know Chris Greer likes guys with injuries. I don't know. I mean, it's kind of like a sports thing.
Yeah, and I feel like he has a voodoo. Like, we did a post the other day about like a voodoo doll. I feel like he has voodoo dolls of like all our players, and like he just gets so much, like, you know, it's just everybody. That's what he does. He just
no. And look, the other thing is there's a lot of positions of need on this team,
yeah,
and that's one of them. The secondary needs to be addressed because you lost. You're about to lose Jalen Ramsey. We could talk more about that. I know we bring it up, but Jalen Ramsey is all but gone. Based on what Chris Greer said in his press conference the other day. So that's maybe your best player in the secondary. So he'll be gone. And then you're going to lose. You lost Jordan Poyer, who see ya. He didn't do too well for us anyway. But by losing two guys there, you're going to have an area of need, and that's where if that is in fact the pick at 13. It's something that we need on this team. So.
I wanted so much more from Ramsey. I remember when he signed with the Dolphins. You were working, and I texted you. And I was like, "Emergency!" And you're like, "What, babe?" And I'm like, "We just got Jalen Ramsey." And like, but I felt the same with Odell Beckham too. It's like we get these guys who have performed well on other teams, and it's like they come here and they're just not at the same caliber. And I'm so tired of that. It's like your career should not die in Miami. And we've seen this like over and over again with players like Odell and Jalen Ramsey, Jalen Ramsey and stuff. So it's annoying. Yeah,
and then also, Jalen Ramsey, if he is in fact gone, I mentioned Poyer, who didn't do much, and miss Javon Holland. Javon Holland, also in the backfield, defensive backfield there. So we need to replace those guys, specifically Ramsey, who's got one foot out the door at this point. So if it does happen to be one of those two guys, Barrett or Johnson at 13, it's something that we need.
And healthy.
No, I totally agree with you. I am a little indifferent. I don't think Ramsey was as bad as I think a lot of times he was not in the right position. And that's a schematics thing with Jalen. The guy can still tackle. He didn't tackle very well, I would say, second half of this last season. Don't know why. He whiffed a lot, on several occasions. Even in the playoff game the year before, he whiffed a lot. But I still think he wasn't as horrible as I think obviously Odell underachieved. He was here for like a cup of coffee and they sent him packing, as well. And Jordan Poyer gave Buffalo a win. It's like he did his thing.
The interference call where he, out of nowhere.
Don't forget the targeting.
Yeah, the targeting.
The targeting call as well.
and that cost us that game. I mean, we should have won that game, which puts us in the playoffs, all unlikely. So.
Yeah.
But then it's like our other players when they leave here, like Andrew Van Ginkel, he wasn't bad here, but look what he did this year. Like I just wish
really good.
He was. Yes, if he had a better year when he left here, you know what I mean? Like in Minnesota, he had a better year, but it's like I just wish they'd come here, retain their talent, and get better and contribute to us. So
one of the biggest problems Chris Greer has, he does one of two things. He either overpays for a star and destroys the cap. Or he doesn't offer his young talent soon enough before they hit the open market. Like Christian Wilkins should have still been a Dolphin. Even though he got hurt last year, I get it. But at the time, he was durable. Van Ginkel, I'm sure if he gave him a decent offer, he would have stayed. Even though I do think he was homesick. He's from the Big Ten. He was from Wisconsin. I think he liked the Midwest atmosphere. But I think if you gave him a decent offer, he would have stayed, as well. And that's just been the history of the Dolphins. It's like once their young players hit the open market after a solid season, they're gone. Robert Hunt should still be a Dolphin. I was telling my buddy today at work, I'm like, the moment Robert Hunt caught that pass and thought he could run for a touchdown, that's when you should have signed him. I mean, that big man was running, okay, and running with speed and power, and I mean, it's a no-brainer. And of course, Carolina had a pretty good season running the football with Chubba Hubbard, and who was in the interior guard? It was Robert Hunt. So that's something that Chris Greer really misses the ball on all the time. And I think that draft them, sign them when they're young, but it's not all. We got to get a Jalen Ramsey. I don't know that's just the way. I'm not the biggest fan of Chris Greer, so let's
You
just.
don't say. I don't know any. I don't know anybody.
Yeah,
is.
not a lot of people in this town are. And you mentioned Robert Hunt also was a Pro Bowler last year. Van Ginkel made it to the Pro Bowl. So these are guys that we let go, and they end up, being playing at an All-Pro level for other teams, and that hurts, And so
Van Ginkel made the right move because he ended up with Brian Flores as his DC. So he already understood the scheme. So he went in there in a situation that he was comfortable in. So that's why he was able to excel, because he already understood the scheme, because Brian Flores is the DC over at Minnesota. Yeah. So I think that served Van Ginkel very well. But again, guy balls out for you. You only 2 years, not a big deal. You could have signed him for 2 years, and then you figure out what to go. But the Dolphins again have the same problems. They either don't sign their young talent, or they get a hole and they overpay for a guy that in the end of the day acts like he doesn't want to be here, or is a malcontent or a problem with the team.
Yeah, no, even our signings, this free agent period, Ifeatu Melifonwu from Detroit, a guy who's again been a playmaker, made big plays in the playoffs, but he's also been hurt. History.
Yeah, I was gonna say that.
And so we cannot afford to take a guy that's got any kind of medical red flags. We got to take a guy who's ready to make an impact from day one. Off training camp, should not be competing for a job. He's going to be handed the job and ready to go.
No, I totally agree with you. I 100% agree with you. Now, we're going to pick another guy. All right, so let's see. What are your thoughts on... Let's see. Let's go with Kelvin Banks, tackle out of Texas. He's listed at 6'4", 320 pounds. I think that you either line him up at tackle, and you can even try him out as guard. But what do you think? We'll start first with Lou.
Okay, so you have about 6 or 7 tackles that are projected to go, in the first round, or I'm sorry, around the first and maybe a little bit outside the first round. But to me, I don't think that we have our bookend tackles. You got Patrick Paul, obviously Armstead. Everybody kind of got the clue that he wasn't going to be coming back. Yeah. He ends up retiring. So you drafted. I'll give Chris Greer credit for this. He did draft his replacement in Patrick Paul. So you're good there. And then Austin Jackson on the other side, a right tackle, a guy that was, hurt last year as well. But we drafted him very young out of USC. He was 20 years old, I believe, when we drafted him. So he's grown into his body now. Hopefully he's healthy. I think you're good with your bookends and tackles. I think you need to look inside. I
agree with you there too.
The pick is the guard. I think it's got to be guard. Now, I see what you're saying, and Banks, but is a stud. He's huge. Great scoring, big school he played at. But again, to take a guy who played tackle at the college level and line up against the best, in Banks's case, being in the program that he played in, bring him and make him a guard, I think you're doing a disservice to his position, to his pride. I want a guy who's going to come in, who's been doing that for the last 2-3 years and is a seasoned, veteran at that spot, as seasoned as you can be coming out of college. But I don't want a guy that's got to have to adjust. I want a guy that knows his position, and that's where he's going to be playing.
And ready to go. Yeah, we need to be 100% at that position and kind of use what we already have. And if not, you see what's out there already instead of starting over and building somebody up. You don't have time for that.
Well, what I'm hoping is that I don't know how the line works at Texas, but in Miami they cross-train you. So if you could play tackle, they'll put you in as guard. A lot of people were saying that CC Mauinoa. We'll talk about the Canes in a bit, but I just want to bring that up because you brought the adjustment. CC might be a better guard in the NFL than he is a tackle, and Alex Mirabal came back and said, "Well, he's had 900 snaps at tackle, so I think he's going to stay as a tackle." But the point of the matter is they could move him in if they really wanted to. That's the point that they try to do in practice. So if they do need you at a certain position in the NFL, you're not a completely virgin to it. You've had some experience in practice or taking off some big guys. That's just for example, one of the things that a lot of scouts like about Jalen Rivers, the former Cane tackle / guard / tackle, is that they can move him around. He could be a plug and play guy. So that's one of the things they do like. But I do get your point. If you're gonna go with your first pick at 13, you want a guy that's a pure guard to take that mantra, not a guy that's a plug and play guy. You want a guy that could be a pure guard to take that position, because that's a very much a position of need as far as that goes. I just like his size, and again, I like the fact that he played in a very competitive conference, so that gives him an advantage going to the NFL, because a lot of guys he played against in the whether it's blocking an end or blocking a defensive tackle over in the SEC, they're probably going to go to the NFL one way or the other. That's my only thing. But speaking of guards, okay, I did not forget the guard position. All right. Only because Alabama has a bad history with linemen in the NFL. But I have to mention him because he's been talking about. Yes, Tyler Booker. I
know you're going there. Yep.
6'5", 325. Alabama, even with Nick Saban, those guards never really panned out. But again, everybody's individual. So beginning with Ashley, what do you think about the possibility of Tyler Booker?
So I had him as, one of my possibilities of going to the Dolphins, but again, the Alabama system, I'm kind of over it. We've seen it's not what it used to be. Yeah, they still produce great players, but I mean, and I'm not feeling it. There's other positions that I feel like, we'd need better, need more, and I'm over the Alabama system personally.
Luke.
Well, look, we've already we got Tua, we got Waddle. This is the guy I want. I actually want Tyler Booker. I want Tyler Booker. I don't want him at 13 though. Like I said, you got about 6 to 7 tackles that are projected to go in that first round, maybe just outside. I'll run a couple. You mentioned Banks. You got Simmons. You got Will Campbell out of LSU. You got the kid out of Mizzou, Membu. You got Conley out of Oregon, and then a lot of people also like Gray Zabel out of North Dakota. Who this North Dakota. I wouldn't get a first round player from there unless it's a specific position like quarterback or. You go back to wide receiver. Jerry Rice came out of a small school, but I'm not picking a tackle or lineman who's going against inferior talent on the other side from North Dakota. So I'm not doing that. But as mentioned, all these tackles that are going to be going first round just outside it, I think this is a perfect opportunity to trade back in the draft and pick up Tyler Booker. You need a guard right now. As I mentioned, you got your bookends and Patrick Paul, and you got Austin Jackson on right tackle. You got Brewer at center. You got Daniels, who we signed as a free agent to play guard from the Steelers. And then everybody hold your breath. Your other guard right now is predicted as Liam Eichenberg, which, a lot of people, have an issue with that. So I think this is a position that you can, draft Booker. Again, not at 13, but I would trade back, maybe pick up a second, third round pick by doing so. But, team wants to be generous and give us that. And you make Eichenberg either, establish that he's going to be the guard, or you let that rookie come in and take his job.
Do you want Liam there, though?
I don't want Liam there. But that's why I think that this is a good opportunity in the late first round to draft a guard.
I want Liam Eichenberg to forget the address of the stadium. Okay, I'll be very.
Oh my God, that was so good.
Being very sincere, I want him to forget that I want him to think he's back at South Bend and Notre Dame. And just drive to Indiana every Sunday. I mean, every single time Mostert got the football, Liam seemed like he was 5 yards into the backfield being pushed by whatever defensive tackle was there. And I'm usually pretty nice. I'm usually not that rough, but.
No, you said that nice. You didn't tell him run out of town. You said that very classy. I like that wrong. Just forget the address. Put the wrong address in.
But listen, in his defense, though, and I will say this. Look, in his defense, you mentioned guys who plug in and play anywhere. And he did. He played all the spots. He played all along that offensive line. None which he did well, by the way, but he did do that. But I just look, at this point, it's the one question mark. Everybody else is pretty much the depth chart is the guys that I just mentioned. You got Patrick Paul, you got Jackson, you got Brewer, you got Daniels, who you signed, and then you got Eichenberg. And I think that's the flaw. That's the hole in the system. And I think that's the guy you got to cover for. And so that's why I think Tyler Booker would be my selection if I was running things. I trade back and get Tyler Booker in the late part of the first round.
He'd be a risky pick only because he's from Alabama, so that's the only thing about him, that he'd be somewhat of a risk, and it is a tackle heavy. I agree with Bobby. He was mentioning it yesterday. That I do agree that it is a tackle heavy draft. You could probably get a solid tackle or guard in the second or third round versus maybe the first round. We'll see. But the bottom line is though, you have to build from the inside out, and Miami is definitely deteriorating from the inside. I like Butch as a coach. I think he's done a good job of what he has, and he definitely rehabilitated Austin Jackson's career. There's no doubt about that, because we were ready to show Austin Jackson the door like 2 years ago, and he's definitely stepped up the last couple seasons. I have to give him credit. That's coaching, in my opinion. But we'll see, man. We'll see exactly what they go with as far as that goes. As far as the the Gargoyles. But Tua needs to stay upright. That's number one, and we need to open up some holes. Robert Hunt's departure was greatly missed because that right side, when Mostert had like 30 touchdowns that year, that side was unstoppable, especially against inferior opponents. So that's something that the Dolphins really need to address. Like Chris Greer said, you guys worry about the offensive line more than we do. I'm like, yeah, because we're right. Now I want to go ahead.
Can
Sorry.
I just give you one more reason to worry about the offensive line? You got to look at our division as well. You got to look at the fact that the Patriots they signed Milton Williams from the champion Eagles. You talk about they signed Tonga from the Arizona Cardinals. The Bills. I know Joey Bosa is had an injury, but that's a star right there. So and also the Jets signed Nadi from the Chiefs. So you got the three division rivals who have all addressed their defensive line. More reason to select an offensive lineman here in the first round and protect Tua even more because our rivals in the division have addressed their side of the ball. We got to take care of ours.
Even more than that, Lua. I called you Lua. I didn't say Lou and Tua. I said Lua. Oh my gosh, so weird.
It's a good mix.
I didn't say if you don't.
I feel concussed already.
No, because the offensive line should be the number one thing being addressed here. Because if you don't have an offensive line, Tua will not survive out there. Like Teron Armstead, okay, granted he was older, wasn't the most healthy, but he held it down for what he had to. But if you don't have an offensive line, he's not going to have time to get the ball. He's not going to have time to release the ball, and he's going to get squashed. So offensive line, if they are invested in Tua, which they are, it has to be offensive line. How do you win games? You put points on the board, right? On the field, the board. So it has to be offensive line. I don't see any other position but the offensive line.
Yeah, and also to piggyback off that as well is that Mike McDaniel is. I mean, he's known as a lot of things, but primarily he's an offensive-minded coach, right? That's what he was doing.
Yeah.
He came from San Francisco. Well, again, going back to our division, what did the Jets do? What did the Patriots do? They had two defensive-minded coaches in charge now. Mike Vrabel's coaching New England.
Mm-hmm.
Aaron Glenn is coaching the Jets. Those are two defensive-oriented, minded coaches. And so, again, they're going to think from that perspective. When you hire a coach who comes from that position, that's what they're going to address. That's what we're going to know. They're going to know best. And so we need to make sure that our offense and specifically protecting Tua is at the forefront of anything that we do.
The number one thing. Absolutely.
Yeah. My take on it too is that one of the biggest problems the Dolphins have is that you're just not physical. They're a nice track team, but like occasionally you need a couple Cadillacs and a couple pickups, to make sure you can do the heavy lifting, and they just don't have that. And every team that's gone to the playoffs and has won championships, the one thing they have is that when they need to get physical and need to beat you up a little bit, they will. The Eagles proved that this year. That is a very physical football team. The Buffalo Bills are a very physical football team. Even the Chiefs as well are physical when they need to be. And Miami is just not a physical football team. They get beat up when they take on, more bullyish type of teams like the Eagles and the Ravens and even the Bills as well. So I do think that, again, shoring up the offensive line is a good thing. If they trade down, they get alignment, that's a good thing. I just wouldn't want one as a 13th pick. That's my other thing. I think corner or even D tackle is something you might want to go with, right, as well. Now, leading up to D tackles, I know this guy pretty well. The Hurricanes were heavily involved in his recruitment. And, of course, his defensive tackle out of Ole Miss, formerly of the Texas A&M Aggies, Walter Nolan. Walter had a very breakout year with Ole Miss, where he had 26 solo tackles, 6.5 sacks, 11 career sacks for his career in college. I think he would pair up very nicely with Zach Sealer. Do you like Walter Nolan starting with Ashley as a 13th pick, or you rather hopefully see if we trade down we can get him a differently?
I would say trade down. With Lou's point of saying, there's other ways that we can get him. I would say trade down. Funny story about Ole Miss. I used to work for Ole Miss.
Really?
I worked in college admissions at Ole Miss for a few years. I worked in recruiting players from Florida to go to Ole Miss. I worked in college admissions. So I've seen the in and outs of Ole Miss. So
Howdy, right? Howdy,
gosh almighty, Oxford. So I plead the fifth with anything with Ole Miss.
Listen, Ole Miss, Tim Bowens, right? Tim Bowens from Ole Miss. So we got some history there. And so, yeah, no, look, I think that Zeeler was not his best when Christian Wilkins was alongside him. So if you can get somebody of his caliber to come in and have Zeeler be less double teamed, because let's face it, when Christian Wilkins left, he draws all the attention, and even despite that, he still had double-digit sacks again last year. And
he had a good year. I really like him.
He missed the game. So, but if you can make him even more explosive and even more of a run stopper by freeing him up and not letting him be all the focus, that would be a good look for me. I think you're good from the defensive ends and edge rusher position, because you got hopefully Bradley Chubb coming back, hopefully Phillips coming back and staying healthy.
But those are both players that have been so injured. What makes you think like the recovery? And
that's why I hate to say it. I'm actually going to say something nice about Chris Greer twice on this show.
Are you drinking water or vodka? I mean, what's in your bottle there? It's so not like you.
I commended the signing of drafting of Chop Robinson last year. I actually wanted Verse from Florida State, who did a great job. He was the Rookie of the Year, Defensive Rookie of the Year for the Rams. But look, he did the right pick, obviously, as it turned out, with Phillips being hurt and Chubb missing the entire year. So, but if those two guys come back healthy and you got Chop, you're good at edge rusher, good at getting guys on the outside to get the pass rush going. So I'm with you. I think that would be a good selection to pair somebody up with Zach.
Yeah, like I'm a guy that I believe in the interior quite a bit. I like linemen and I like defensive tackles, and I just think that when you have a solid interior, both on the defensive and offensive side of the ball, you could do anything else you want on both sides of the ball. If your front four is humming, your linebackers could be free to make plays and tackles, and your defensive backs could cover a little longer, or don't have to cover as long. To be frank, don't have to cover as long. And the same thing with your offensive line. If your offensive line is good, you can do whatever you want because you have all the time in the world. So that's why I'm a big fan of shoring up the both aspects of the defensive line and the offensive line, and then everything else would just fall into place. And like I meant, and like we talked about with Tyreek Hill, the Chiefs won two Super Bowls without Tyreek. Tyreek's the best wide receiver in the game, despite all the crap outside of the stadium. He's the best wide receiver in the game. Okay, you can disagree. You can say, oh, it's Justin Jefferson, whatever. But the numbers, when he's on, he's on. But the Chiefs won 2 Super Bowls without him. Why? Because they had a good line to protect Patrick Mahomes. They surrounded him with the right pieces, and the guy's just a great quarterback. So that's just what I think. You have to do in football. At the end of the day, if you have a good line and a good defensive line, you can do whatever you want on all aspects of both sides of the ball. That's why I like the Nolan pick. Like I said, Nolan was heavily recruited out of high school. Miami was on his tail. He ended up committing to Texas A&M. The same thing with Shamar Stewart as well. And then he really picked a perfect time to really go off on his last year at Ole Miss and had that spectacular. Give me 1 second, guys.
You're good.
Would I also that when you talk about defensive tackle, build the line from the inside, you're going up against the MVP of the league now twice a year. Josh Allen, how many times does he drop back there, just waits for a second, nobody's open, he takes off, right? Yeah. So you need to have pressure. You need to have guys that are going to, penetrate that offensive line and get in there and make them, think twice about scrambling, because Josh Allen, for too many times, against the liking of us, of all Dolphin fans, has just, ran down the field on a quarterback sneak, or, once the line can't get inside there, he takes off. So, having a guy who's going to deter that, I'm all for it 100%.
Well, staying with the AFC East, one guy who we haven't talked about yet was Will Campbell from LSU, although he is projected to go to the Patriots. So I would like to grab him, but I think he's going to go sooner, which – but
he's going to be gone at that point. He won't be. I don't anticipate. Most people project him to go earlier, and he wouldn't be really available for us.
But even though it's important that we look at who we're going to draft, you got to see who our enemies are going to draft too. And I think that one would have been great to grab, but I think he's going to go as well.
Yeah, I just wouldn't trade up. That's for sure. I'd rather trade down. You get more picks out of it.
Absolutely.
So that's what I think. I think trading up, you're losing, the potential for assets, and then you're relying on free agency or who gets cut in the preseason. And I think that's something that you need to shore up in the draft and then use free agency to fill in for depth purposes or fill in some holes. So I'm not a big fan of trading up just to get, Will Campbell or something like that or anybody else. But like I said, going back, Christian Wilkins used to drive Josh Allen crazy. Even if he wouldn't get home, he put pressure on Josh Allen. So I think that, again, having a guy to play alongside Zach Sealer, who's been playing phenomenally. Actually, last year I think he was AFC East the defensive player a couple of times, right? If I'm not mistaken. Am I not mistaken?
Don't remember, but I will say if you have that stat, I will.
Yeah,
say
I
yes.
think a couple of times even last year he was AFC East or AFC Defensive Player of the Week. I think so. I'm not mistaken, or you can correct me in the stats. I'm just thinking off the top of my head. So he balled out. Imagine having another guy next to him as well that could do a lot of damage. So I do think that I think tackle's not a bad way to go. So that being said,
and Steelers should have been a Pro Bowler as well. Let's face it, too.
He got robbed.
He missed
yeah,
the one.
he totally got robbed.
Yeah, he missed the game against the Arizona Cardinals, which that's another game. He plays, and we win that game likely, and we would have probably been in the playoffs. So Zach Sealer for me was the MVP of the defense, maybe the MVP of the team overall. Yeah. And so if you could pair somebody up to make him more explosive, be able to cause more damage, he wouldn't be double teamed, or the focus of the other team's defensive line or offensive line, I should say. That'd be a big deal. And so, yeah, I would love that pick if it happens.
Yeah, and Zach Sealer is the epitome of hard work paying off. The guy was living in a RV because he kept getting cut, everywhere he went. So he never really bought a home. So he bought his first home with Miami as a professional athlete. So, and he's the epitome of hard work paying off. I mean, I'm very happy for him and his family.
Yeah, him and his wife Hannah, they do a lot for the community. They're just
really
damn people. You know what I mean? Like that's the type of people that you want in the community, on and off the field. Yeah. So we like them.
Yeah, no, I'm glad that they're good ambassadors for the sport and good ambassadors for the community. Yeah. I really appreciate them. Shifting over a little bit now to another South Florida football team, one that I love to cover all the time is the Miami Hurricanes. Yep,
let's get it. Cam Ward gonna go super early.
Yes. The funny, I want to bring this up. With all the talent that the Canes for like 3-4 decades, 3 decades, 35 years, I would say, have pumped into the NFL, all that talent, Miami has never had a number 1 pick in the draft. This is going to be the first time if Tennessee decides not to get cold feet on Cam Ward, that they Miami have the first pick of the draft. That is amazing. So both of you guys are Canes fans as well. So starting first I'll start with Lou since he's born and bred in Miami. All right, Lou, what do you think about Cam Ward this season? It was exciting to watch every single week.
Every week, it must see TV. We actually we went to one of the Canes games. Was it the?
It was the Berkeley one. The one you can't.
No. We went to a game, but we saw the Berkeley game. We saw it at a watch party, and that was incredible. You're down 35-14.
2 in the morning.
In the fourth quarter, he comes back, and unfortunately, he had to do that a lot because the defense was not good this year for the Hurricanes. Betrayed him, but he was must-watch TV. Should have been the Heisman, in my opinion. Because he kind of got slighted by the fact that losing streak at the end. But he put up amazing stats. You're talking about, Miami used to be quarterback Jim Kelly in the Hall of Fame, Vinny Testaverde, Craig Erickson. I mean, you can go all over. Ken Dorsey, so many great quarterbacks have played here. And so he better than all of them statistically for his 1 year with the Hurricanes was amazing. And I think it's a no-brainer. Number 1, he reminds me a lot of, I know that, people may not see it, but I see it just because the throws across the side of his body, the gunslinger mentality, not as scared to throw the ball downfield or in a crowd. Reminds me a lot of Brett Favre, a guy that is not scared to make the throw, a little bit maybe to his detriment sometimes because Favre threw a lot of picks. But listen, Favre won a Super Bowl, Hall of Famer, one of the all-time quarterbacks. And, I see a lot of Brett Favre in Cam Ward.
Ashley, you want to give your take?
Yeah, no. I mean, like I said, if Tennessee doesn't pick him first pick, what are they doing? They need a franchise quarterback. They're going to get this in him. I mean, Marcus Mariota wasn't the guy. I mean, he did his business when he played with Tennessee those periods of time. Tannehill was like another placeholder. It's kind of like they have these placeholders. Cam Ward will and should be that guy for them. But I don't see him not going first. But you just don't know, right? Like, I mean, even as a Dolphin fan, I tweeted this the other day. I said, how many times have we got excited for the draft and then we pick a guy like Deion Jordan? I mean, whatever. That's a whole other story. I'm not going to be started with that. But no, Cam Ward will and should go to Tennessee. It's going to be amazing. I didn't realize, but now that you said it, the Canes haven't had a number 1 pick. It is going to be wild. It's great for the city. It's great for the program. And
as a quarterback,
as a quarterback, yeah, it's going to be. No, he's going to. He should go to Tennessee.
Yeah. I think he should as well.
Although I thought I would love him down here, but obviously he, that would be amazing. Maybe down the road.
So would I. I agree with you, Ashley. Cam is interesting, and the reason why I think Cam is a good success is because going back to Marcus Mariota, he was a product of a system. Okay, he was part of Chip Kelly's system over at Oregon that scored a lot of points. It was based upon a high intensity, no huddle, a lot of tempo, and you can't play that in the NFL because the body types and the rosters are different, less players. So that's for starters. That's why I don't think Mariota worked out very well in the NFL. Cam has been successful in every program he went to. He destroyed everything in Incarnate Ward. He would have been a 5-star recruit if it wasn't for his football coach having a medieval mentality when it came to football. They ran a wing T in his hometown of Texas. That's why I don't think he ever mentions his high school football coach when it comes to the thanks and the molding of his character. So of him molding his character as a football player. He goes into Washington State, Pac-12, pretty good program as well, despite offensive line balls. All right. He comes to Miami and has the greatest statistical season in the program's history. I have the numbers right here. Okay. He had over 4,000 yards passing, 39 touchdowns, and only seven interceptions as well. I mean, he is going to be a remarkable. He's going to learn a little bit. He has some growing pains, holding on to the ball a little too long. I get that a little bit. Hold on. It's not going to be the same thing because these guys are in the NFL. They're just as fast or even faster than guys he played in college, but you'll get it. He's very smart. He's very motivated, which is what you want out of your rookie and your player as well. And I just think if you pair him up with the right pieces, Cam Ward is going to destroy things for Tennessee in a positive way, in a very positive way. That's why I do think if Tennessee does draft him, they have to find a way to draft Xavier Restrepo. Now, I want to ask you guys this question as a leadway. He ran a bad 40. He claims he had a hamstring issue. Who knows if that's true or not? I mean, he's always been an integral kid. I believe him, to be honest with you, but he claims he had a hamstring issue, but he wanted to honor his commitment and do the Canes Pro Day. But I do think that pairing him up with Ward would be perfect because he'll have someone he could trust, a security blanket if things go bad. He'll know where he's at. There's chemistry already built in there. So I want to ask both of you this question. If Restrepo is going to get drafted, it's just a matter of where he goes. Okay, where do you think Xavier is going to be drafted? So Ashley, I think you want to jump on this one
because,
first.
Like you, I do work in education, and how there was he mentioned to me, he had a bad time in 40, and how I take it like this, right? Students, if you have a bad SAT or ACT, it should not dictate your whole academic profile, right? This is the college admission counselor back in the day coming out. So his 40 was like an ACT score, right? It doesn't dictate the whole picture. I cannot see him going later than the 4th round, right? It's not going to happen. It shouldn't happen. It would be criminal if he goes past the 4th round. But they are saying that he was injured. So his 40, his time in the 40, it's just, again, a snapshot of the bigger picture. Look at the season he had this year. He's a great player, comes from a great family. I could also see him with the whole going to Cam Ward as well. But no, it's that 40, the time, the combine, peanuts, nothing. A lot of schools are test optional. That's how NFL teams should be with the combine. Test optional, you want to see your time with the 40. What's your time with the 40? You mention it, right? So again, that's how I kind of look at it. It's not, I rather see the bigger picture, just like in college admissions, you see the bigger picture. You look at the GPA, you look at the community involvement, you look at stuff like that. So I'm looking at the bigger picture of him. He's a great player. He's going to be great in the NFL. Okay, he had a bad day in the combine, let it slide, possibly injured, and he should not go past the 4th round. I'm very strong about him. I like him. I like the kid. Go ahead.
Yeah, a lot of people say I've seen between the 4th and the 6th round. A lot of people saying late in the latter part of that, so 5th or 6th. If I'm Tennessee, to your point, if you're going to draft Cam Ward 1, you should try to pair him up with somebody who's familiar with. We've seen this in the NFL. Obviously, higher end players. Right here you got Tua, you got Waddle. The Bengals drafted Burrow. They got you got Chase, Jamar Chase. So you want to pair up your quarterback who's adjusting to the biggest level, which is the NFL, with a guy he's familiar with and knows how to get in the ball. So I 100% agree with that mindset. You talk about Restrepo, his stats. I got it here: 200 receptions, 2,844 yards, and 21 touchdowns. I mean, those are some stats. The same way we mentioned that University of Miami is quarterback U, it's also been wide receiver U. Michael Irving played here, Andre Johnson, Hall of Famer, so a lot of great wide receivers in the day. He's broken all the records, and that should stand for something. So I would absolutely, move up or do whatever I got to do if I'm Tennessee to get a guy who Cam Ward is familiar with to put him in the best position to succeed. And last thing I'll say on the 40 time, not, the 40 time, but also he's a little bit undersized for, a receiver. You're looking at him playing the slot, not the actual, receiver, number one wide receiver capability with, and he's not your prototypical 6'3" guy or whatnot like that, but a guy who failed the Wonderlic test. You might have heard of him. Dan Marino did horrible in the Wonderlic. Back then, the Wonderlic and knowing how to answer these questions was pivotal if you were going to, get drafted specifically as a quarterback. And Marino had one of the worst Wonderlic scores, in quarterback history. And maybe the reason why he fell in the draft. But guess what? He did pretty well. So I would not stress the 40 time or anything else that people are looking as a reason not to draft Xavier Restrepo. I think he definitely should be picked.
Now, kids, disclosure does not mean you don't do well in the ACT. Does not mean you don't do SAT, ACT. You still do well. It's still important, but
the body of work. The body of work is the important.
It's more the full picture.
Yeah, I'm gonna quote my buddy Flo from the Flow Network. Watch the film. Okay, that's what you gotta do. Just watch the film. All right, watch the kid in action. He's a great route runner. He's very smart. He'll block for you as well. He's not afraid to get dirty as well, and he's a lot more elusive than, I remember people would comment when I was on Flow Show, Xavier Restrepo can't run away from people. I'm like, yeah, I've seen him actually burn some 4-stars, in game. I remember they got blown out by Alabama, but I remember he caught a beautiful touchdown pass from Derrick King, and he was one-on-one with a 4 or 5-star defensive back at Alabama. So he's got it. Again, one of the things about slot receivers is their route running capabilities, and Restrepo is a very, very, very good route runner. And when you run good routes and you're able to cut on a dime that leaves defensive backs on their heels, they catch the football, you get yourself a first down. He's gonna be if he goes to the NFL, he'll be a chain mover. But that's what you need. That's what you need. A guy that can move the chains, bring down the defense, and then Cam could go deep.
He's disciplined. He's hungry. He wants to learn. He's all those qualities that you want in a rookie coming up. And so anybody who gets him is going to be very lucky.
Yeah, it's the same thing. Like, a lot of people didn't know about Malik Washington, and I'm like, I saw Malik at Virginia and what he did to the Canes. He's solid, a little undersized, skinny. I'm like, don't let that fool you. He can get open, and he could break some ankles if he's in open space. And I think he's going to be a good solid number 3 if the schematics for the Dolphins work themselves out right as well. So good. I like your takes both on Cam Ward and Xavier Restrepo.
Yeah.
Awesome. So now we got another guy, and this guy has been could have been a first rounder, but it's kind of because of the injuries. All right, and that is Elijah Arroyo, 35 catches, 590 yards, and 7 touchdowns this season. Yeah. I want to also mention he was clocked running 21 miles an hour, chasing down a guy who caught an interception against his team, i.e. Virginia Tech, Caleb Spencer. So what are your thoughts on Elijah Arroyo? I'll let Lou take that one, and then I'll let Ashley jump in on the next round.
Okay. Yeah, no, look, you said it right there, 7 touchdowns, right? That's a guy who can, tight end, that's what you want. Not so much the production yards-wise, because that's going to be for your wide receiver, your guys, your running backs that are going to get you downfield, but you want your big target who could score in the end zone. And 7 touchdowns in a college football season, that's big time. Big size on him. He's a guy who's, as you said, he's been injured, so the production could have been even higher. I like him. He's a guy that maybe some people I've seen project him to stay in the state of Florida and pair him up with Jacksonville and Trevor Lawrence, give him another target to throw to. And I think that might be a good look there. But definitely a guy who has good hands, can score touchdowns in that position. I'm all about it.
So what I like about him is that his runaway speed, right? Like tight ends, personally, my favorite player on the field is tight end because they're so versatile, right? They have so many different jobs. And if you have a good one, they can block, they can run, all that good stuff. And I do think he's gonna go second round. If you look at the draft the last few years, tight ends have been going sooner and sooner and sooner. So I do believe that is also going to help him, showcase his talents a little sooner and go in the second round. But tight ends have been getting drafted sooner and sooner, which is very interesting.
I think he would have been a first round pick if it wasn't for his injury history. I think, and he got hurt. I think in one of the pro days, he got hurt. He was hurt, so I think that kind of is going to turn off scouts and GMs a little bit. But I think he would have been a first round pick. The guy lined up at the boundary towards the end of the season against some of the top corners in the ACC. So the guy's got speed. He's got great hands. He could block inline. You could flex him out.
Yeah.
He's very versatile as a tight end, and I think whoever gets him is going to get a steal, especially if he stays healthy. Okay, it's going to get an absolute steal. I'll even say he's better than Mason Taylor, to be frank with you. All right, I think Mason. Mason was more durable in college. But I think Elijah's a better athlete. Okay, so because I know the reason I mentioned Mason is because some boards have him going second or third round to the Dolphins. Okay, as well. So yeah, I saw on some boards that they have him going to the Dolphins. I kind of like to help him out with a Jonnu Smith on the other side, since after the pass. I'm fine with Mason, but I'm just saying that I think overall Elijah's a better athlete than Mason Taylor. Like I said, from the 20-yard line, he ran 22 miles an hour to track down a defensive back that was about to get a pick six. So that's
can run.
Yeah, he could definitely run. And again, you line him up at the boundary, and he could run with any DB in the NFL and run past him as well. So that's my take. Now, this is one of my favorites, and I hope, Chris Greer, if you're listening, I want you to listen to me. All right? It's just you and me right now, Chris. Just you and me. I want you, if you're going to go running back, pay attention. All right? Look at me.
Damian Martinez.
All right? Damian Martinez, yes. Okay? You need to draft, if you're going to go running back and he's available, Damian Martinez. And let me tell you why. I'm gonna tell you why, Chris Greer. Okay?
He's talking to you, Chris.
159 carries, 1,002 yards rushing, 6.3 yards per carry, 10 touchdowns.
Yeah.
He is the most underrated player going into this draft, but I hate to break it to you, he's probably going to go to Pittsburgh.
Oh,
am I Chris Greer? Oh, sorry. Let me take that off.
Oh.
Yeah, no, he's heavily projected to go to the Steelers, but he, hands down, if not the most underrated player going into the draft, everybody, but Steelers, it's very, very.
Well, I won't break your heart like Ashley is.
No, you mean Chris Greer.
I'm gonna say that. Look, why not? Right? I mean, we lost Mostert. Mostert took a step back. Mostert was a leader. He was a year removed from setting the all-time single-season record for most touchdowns for offensive position, non-quarterback for the Miami Dolphins. But he really took a step back production-wise. He has, he's up there in age as well. So I think you always need to have three running backs, in my opinion. And so I think if you get a chance to draft Martinez, you think you absolutely do it. I don't know if he'll be there, but I'm with you. Put it out there, and hopefully he falls to us at some point.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I got four guys. I like Ollie out of Oklahoma State. He's one. Then it's Hampton. I know it's gonna go before. It's gonna go early, or North Carolina. That'll be my second one. Third is Scatterboo, and fourth is Martinez. My reason for Martinez, I know I'm biased. Hardcore Canes fan, cover the team, and whatnot. But it's just because for what the mad scientist of Mike McDaniel likes to do, and he loves shiny toys that go fast. But Miami lacks power as far as the running back position goes, and Martinez fits that mold. Martinez is a guy that could run away from you, okay. But he's also a guy that if you need a 4th and 1, and he did at Miami, you need a 4th and 1. You're getting the 4th and 1, and now especially with a fullback being a lead blocker, he's gonna get your 4th and 1. And if the linebacker misses, he's gone. Right, difficult to tackle, pass protect, catch the ball out in the backfield. I mean, he's everything you need. A fine tool player, a Swiss Army knife of a running back to get out of Martinez. So that and he made that 6.3 look easy. He in the beginning of the year he kind of struggled a little bit, because he was too slow to hit the hole. He danced around a bit too much. The moment he got put back to RB2 for Mark Fletcher, oh, I gotta wake up. The moment he started hitting that hole, there was no stopping that guy. My best memory, I have two memories of David Martinez. The Louisville game where the whole entire defense, he dragged them into the end zone on a 35-yard run, and the Florida State game where he was in a pile, and then all of a sudden Inez Cooper grabs him, swings him out, and he's gone. Those are my two favorite memories of David Martinez. Plus, in the Pop-Tart Bowl, he ran all over. I forgot the name of the school he played. To be honest with you,
Iowa State.
Yeah.
Iowa State. Then he ran. I almost said Arizona State. Iowa State. He ran over Iowa State. He ran all over them. So again, big game competition and so on. I mean, that's why he's my guy. Okay.
And he knows how to play the Hard Rock. He knows the sun, right? Even the little things, right? He knows the elements here. So
and Chris Greer would have seen him, right? So he plays at your home stadium.
Mm-hmm.
He should have had plenty of opportunities to see him in person. So that would not be bad at all. I would love to have that. Jalen Wright, I thought with Raheem again not being as big a factor as he was, I thought Jalen Wright should have made a next step, level step there, and I didn't see that. I mean, he did well, but I don't know that I don't know if you could just pencil him in as your number 2, your backup running back, your change of pace guy, and that's why Damian Martinez would be a tremendous selection if he's able to get.
I gotta give you guys a score update. I just peeked my head over. 5-2 Panthers.
Nice.
With 23 seconds left in the second.
Oh, thank God.
So
5-2.
score update.
Nice. Thank you, Ashley. Appreciate it. Yeah.
Will's recording the game. He just blew it. He's recording.
Sorry.
He's going to watch the game after the show, and you just blew it.
Sorry.
Nah, you're good. I'm gonna do a short later, possibly. I've been doing that lately. Every single time we win a playoff game, if we lose, I don't do shorts.
Yeah,
I gotta do
so
that.
deflating, man. When you get
It is, man. But on a victory, I do.
Yeah.
So I do my 305 sports shorts. That's what I call them, where I break down the games, man. Yeah, I work hard, man. Yeah, I'm a teacher. I try to cover all the teams as much as I can, and if I can't, because they're kind of like cross season, I'll do shorts to keep the integrity of the show as well. So it's fun, man. But I'm enjoying it as well, and I love having guests on like you guys as well. So we mentioned 4 Canes. Are there any other Miami Hurricanes? There's still a few left in the draft that I didn't mention that you want to talk about that you think can make an immediate impact for a future football team?
I mean, what I wrote down was Jalen Rivers, the offensive tackle. He's just massive. He's 6'6", 319 pounds. I could see him maybe going around 5 or around 6. Maybe somebody could develop and be, a threat moving forward. The other one I wrote down was also Jacoby George. He didn't do too good in the combine though. But again, that's just the ACT, the SAT, the little snapshot of it. Those are the 2 that, will get drafted later.
He balled on his pro day though. To his credit, and Kane's pro day, he did do very well.
All right, so he did good at the GREs,
Yeah.
right? The GREs are the LSAT.
There you go.
Sorry, work in education. You could
It's
see your way out
EOC.
of this.
The other one is EOC. His in-house test. He did very well. Lou?
Yeah, no, same thing. Rivers, a guy who's also maybe projected as being a guard as well. A big guy, kind of like the same thing that I talked about Tyler Booker early on. So if you can't get the Booker pick, maybe you can get, you can get Rivers later, and that might be your way to plug Eichenberg out of the guard spot.
You just said you liked him. Now you don't like him.
I didn't say I liked him. I said he's projected as a starter, which is something I don't like, and I want somebody to come in and take his job.
Understand.
So if it can't be Tyler Booker, I'm fine with Rivers, coming in here and maybe giving him a run for that starter spot. And so I like him, and also Andy Borgalis, as place kicker. I never want to say, just like if we were doing fantasy football, right? Pick your kicker last, unless he's a number 1, overall. They're going to score on every possession, and it's going to be a field goal or an extra point. For the most part, you don't want to draft a kicker in the NFL draft. But here's a guy who's 76 out of 84 for his career with the Hurricanes, and so that's pretty reliable.
He's going to go 6 or later. He's going to be.
We don't know if he's going to get picked.
He
will get picked. We don't know when, but
late.
he's a guy who's proven he can make a big kick.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And the thing with Jalen Rivers, like I said, he's versatile. You can line him up a tackle, and you can line him up a guard, and he'll be fine either or. The reason why he played guard is because Markel Bell excelled so well when he was hurt that they had to slide Rivers inside. So I think that kind of worked out. But you could line up a tackle. Heck, he even graded well as center in his pro days as well. So again, yeah, that's the kind of guy that you would draft in later rounds as a plug and play guy. Would be very successful. And yeah, I do think he could beat Liam Eichenberg for the job. Jesus Christ.
If not me or you, go out there. We had we did a show where we had, man, I'm forgetting his name now.
I could trip them. I mean,
No, we had the guy that was trying out to be the punter. I forget his name now. The guy that was sitting out at training camp every day. Either way.
I know you're talking about. Just forgot his name too.
Yeah, he was trying. He sat outside every day in the parking lot, saying with a sign saying, "I want to punt. Give me a chance." So look, if Eichenberg is still out there, man, me and you will be out there, and we'll try out. We'll try to take Eichenberg's job that way.
Yes, my 5'11", 200-pound frame, I think will intimidate the Jacquez Carters of the world.
To be clear, I was saying me and you combined. So like,
you're
gonna get on my shoulders, and we're gonna together.
Now we're talking, Lou. Now we're talking, Lou.
Well, you're so embarrassing sometimes.
It's so funny. Hey, man, whatever works, bro. Whatever works.
Seriously.
Okay. So one thing I noticed about you guys as well is that you guys are sponsored by a group of traveling agents called 305 Sports Travel, right? As well, I saw that on your X feeds in general. Tell us a little bit about that sponsorship. It's a very unique sponsorship. So tell us a little bit about that. And I know you guys have reaped the benefits of it because you've been able to travel and see the football team. So let us know about it. Like, what offers do they have and stuff like that?
Well, it's us.
We own it.
You guys are. Oh, yeah. Okay, my bad. Yeah, no, you definitely reap the benefits from it because you're the owners.
So Lou and I love to travel. That's a big thing. Most of our travel, if not all of it, minus Disney, is to baseball games, stadiums. Like that's what we do. And so people saw that we, go to these away games, and they're like, "Hey, we want to join you." So 2 years ago, Lou and I launched 305 Sports Travel. And so what we do is we do Dolphin away games. We've done Houston, Indianapolis. We did something small in Seattle. We've done Chicago, where we have packages.
Los Angeles, the Chargers. That was a big win. So we basically just we from our experience and going and traveling and see our teams. We're season ticket holders, so we would go to as many games as we can, and sometimes we say, hey, we're going to miss 1 or 2 home games, and we're going to trade it off by doing some road games.
Yeah.
And the Dolphins fan base, I know that sometimes they get a bad rap, but we hit the road strong. I mean, we show up in numbers. We've done a lot of takeovers. And so, we put the idea together to get a one-stop shop where you can get your hotel, your tickets, our FinFan social, a Saturday night before the game. We've done tailgates. So we like to just put
tour for a stadium. We do away game packages, and we've had fans from international, Mexico, England, local fans. It's been, our largest group was over 300. So we plan 2 or 3 away games a year based on the schedule. So we're kind of like, but right now we are looking at Atlanta, Charlotte, and Pittsburgh. Those are our early ones we're looking at to go this year.
Depends on what the schedule is. We're looking at all possibilities, but of course, the schedule should be released here in usually the second week of May, so about 3 weeks away, and we'll know exactly. We're doing our recourse to know exactly what we're going to be, but as soon as that schedule comes on, we'll have an idea.
So that's us. We're 305 Sports Travel.
Okay, the reason why I got confused is because when I heard your show today, it said sponsored by your. So I was like, oh, okay, so they have a sponsor.
Ourselves.
You sponsor yourself.
Yeah, we do.
Well, we're promoting our show, and we want to get people on board to join us on the road. Unfortunately, last year we did not. The 2 games we went out to didn't go our way. But previous to last year, we were riding a 6-game winning streak. So hey, I'll tell you this: it's very hard to win on the road, but I will say that it is the most rewarding feeling. As great as exciting as it is to be in your home stadium and hear the crowd go nuts, during a big play. And of course, once that, the fourth quarter, you see zeros on the scoreboard, game's over, your team wins. It's awesome. But everybody's screaming, everybody's yelling. When you're in the opposing stadium and you hear the difference, which is silence, where the fans are shocked, where they can't believe that they've let a home game get away, it's so rewarding. And it's really euphoric to be on the road and come out with a win. So,
Yeah, no, I will say this though. Dolphin fans do travel well. I mean, and they're in a lot of places. And when I don't go to games as much as I would like to, but I have seen the English fans in the stadium, and they love the Phins. And I asked, why are you Dolphin fans? And they explained why, in general, why they like the team and whatnot. So yeah, man. So congratulations, guys. That's an awesome business venture for you guys. Sports travel is very unique. You really don't hear that. That's why I want to ask you about it. Well, that's pretty cool. When I heard the sponsorship on the show. Okay, so thank you so much for coming on. I loved having you on. This was a great time. I had a great time chopping it up with you guys, having great conversation. You guys are welcome to come back whenever you want, not just for Dolphins. If you want to talk Heat, if you want to speak some Panthers, if you want to do some Canes talk as well. I'd love to have you guys on again. But let us know where we can find you guys. So they can able to subscribe or follow you, etc.
Go ahead, do the plug.
Yeah, so I'm on Twitter, Lou from Dade, 305 Sports Babe on Twitter. Our travel company is 305sportstravel.com. And we do our show, the SoFlo Sports Show, on YouTube, on X, on all platforms. So yeah, we love doing the same thing you do, right? Representing our hometown teams through good and bad. Right now happens to be a great time, even though the Heat took one on the chin the other night. They're in the playoffs. They had to work hard to get in the playoffs. The Panthers has actually gave you that update, are up 5-2.
But how about the Marlins game last night?
I'm getting
Sorry,
there.
I get so excited. I love the Marlins.
The Panthers are up 5-2 right now, heading into the third period. So it's right now at the pinnacle of our sports town and our sports teams playing for hopefully it all.
Hence why we couldn't get married in March, April, or May, or June. Like when Lou and I got engaged a year ago, or what, a year ago was it? We looked at the calendar and we're like, when can we possibly make this happen? And if you look at the calendar, there's such a small window of a time that you can get married that's not during a season. So it was very difficult. Yeah.
Well, it must have been difficult for you guys because if you're all year long sports fans, it's difficult for you to get married during the football season because then you got the Dolphins at the weekend. And then if you go into April, you got the Heat playoffs, as well. And plus baseball is just starting. Then all summer is baseball, but it's all summer is baseball. But then you got to get ready because then preseason starts in August, right, as well. And in September, the season starts and it's college football and the NFL as well. Then you got the World Series, which tomorrow is, for hard for them to get to. We'll see what happens one day, in October. So it's
it's year-round,
college basketball. I'm a St. John's fan. We're good now, so
there's no off days in covering South Florida sports. And look, you got a professional team, and we're leaving out Inter Miami and Messi. They got the best player in the world, the most famous player in the world. Yeah. So it literally there's no days off in covering our teams down here.
So we got married in September.
Okay. All right.
We did in the middle of football season.
Right when it started. Right, football season started. It's okay, we'll miss game one, honeymoon, and then anniversary. Congratulations, guys! Really, you guys. Again, it's nice that you guys came on. It's nice you guys are doing this together. It's nice you guys have a business together. I think that's absolutely awesome. And again, you're always welcome to come on the show. I had a blast having a conversation with you guys. And again, doesn't have to be Dolphins. It could be Heat. Could be Panthers, could be as well as even college football as well. Okay. All right, ladies and gentlemen, you heard that. So please do not forget to follow and subscribe to Ashley, aka the Sports Babe, and Lou from Dade, Lou Dominguez. All right, on X and YouTube as well. Their SoFlo Sports Podcast is killing it. Have a wonderful evening, guys. God bless. And tomorrow I will have Mr. Steve Malloy. Steve Malloy will be going over the later rounds and the Dolphin needs as well. And I might ask about Tyreek Hill. I want to see him go off a little bit. So that's going to be a fun conversation with Steve. All right, guys, God bless. Have a wonderful evening. Go Phins and go Cats and go Heat. Bye-bye, guys. Take care.
Good night, guys.
Good night.